Zelda Breath of the Wild is a genius video game masterpiece. It's a game that lets you play how you want, when you want, and gives you total player control and freedom. Wait a second. There was already a game that already did this. Metal Gear Solid 5. Now, Metal Gear Solid 5 is a genius masterpiece video game. It's deep, complex. There's messages about war that's very nuanced and subtle and subvertive. Yep, Metal Gear Solid 5 is a deep game, and it lets you play how you want, when you want. The game is very deep, nuanced, subtle. The game has themes that are incredibly deep, and there's also anti-war messages in the game, social commentary. The game is nuanced, art. This game is deep, subtle. You can play how you want, and the enemies actually adapt to your gameplay style because this is part of the game being deep, subtle, and nuanced. Metal Gear Solid 5 was the original Zelda Breath of the Wild. It's an open world game that you play how you want, when you want. You can play the game as a killer, or you can play the game as a merciful person and not kill anyone. The game is very deep, subtle, and nuanced. And I gotta say, this game, it breaks you because you start off the game as someone who's in the hospital, hasn't killed anyone, and then as you play through the game, you start to kill people, and you have to build nukes, and it's very subtle. The game says a lot about our American culture and communism and capitalism, both being subjectively morally gray in their own unique way. And that's a very subtle and deep theme about the whole game. Metal Gear Solid 5 is the type of game that breaks you. Hideo Kojima is a genius. And to be honest, Metal Gear Solid games, they're the types of games that break and form you as an individual. You see, you start off in Metal Gear Solid 5 as the player, but as you go in deeper into the game, you eventually become the artist. Metal Gear Solid 5 is a very deep and subversive game because there are actually left-leaning liberal messages hidden throughout the entire game. And honestly, that's just a complete, total masterpiece. And that what automatically dictates a game being a masterpiece. Metal Gear Solid 5 is a type of game... oh, sorry. Metal Gear Solid 5 is a type of game that breaks you. Metal Gear games break you. These games are actually super advanced and deep. You see, Metal Gear Solid 1 talks about genes, and that's incredibly deep, subtle, and nuanced. And then Metal Gear Solid 2 talks about memes, and that's also incredibly deep, subtle, and nuanced. Metal Gear Solid 2 pretty much predicted modern society in the future, and it pretty much changed my life. Unfortunately, my dad still doesn't understand Metal Gear Solid games, and I don't like him for it, because these games are just way too deep, subtle, and nuanced for him to actually fully grasp the genius mentality of Hideo Kojima, who is literally the second coming of Jesus Christ. And then Metal Gear Solid 3 came out, and that's another game that breaks you, because the game is very deep, subtle, and nuanced. And I gotta say, Metal Gear Solid is just a genius masterpiece. Then Metal Gear Solid 4 comes out, and the game is deep and subtle because Snake, the guy that you played as in Metal Gear Solid 1, is old and sad now, and that's very deep and subtle because Metal Gear Solid 4 represents how Kojima felt about the series. Then Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker came out, and it was going to be a Metal Gear Solid 5, but it's actually a deep and subtle game because they put it on the PSP, which was originally social commentary on having players unite together. And finally we have Metal Gear Solid 5, a game that breaks you and is Kojima's magnum opus. Now, yes, the game, there are people who say that the game is unfinished, but this couldn't be further from the truth because a random source on the internet actually confirmed that Hideo Kojima himself said that the game is actually finished, even though the game doesn't have a true ending at all, and it doesn't really resolve the whole child soldiers taking away the Metal Gear at the end. But still, Metal Gear Solid 5 is a very deep and subtle nuance, genius masterpiece. It's anti-war, it's anti-socialism, it's anti-capitalism. Metal Gear Solid 5 is a deep masterpiece of a video game. It is basically the Breath of the Wild of video games. Metal Gear Solid 5 is an anti-war masterpiece because it has messages that point out why war is bad. You see, the problem with war being bad is that it kills people, and people dying is bad. This is extremely deep, subtle, and nuanced, and this is what makes Metal Gear Solid such a genius franchise because it's worked on by a genius creator. Oh God!